Welcome to the May 23rd City of Oldsmar. Got my speaker off, excuse me. Welcome to the Oldsmar Council Capital Improvement Program, CIP. It is 6 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. Let's get started with our invocation and our pledge allegiance by our City Attorney, Tom Trask. Please rise.
Our Heavenly Father, we seek blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. We pray that our work this evening will find favor in your sight. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. I can see Felicia's very excited. I love the new design, and let's get started. We have the open forum. Each speaker will be recognized once and will be limited to a 5-minute presentation on any subject. Please state your name and address for the record. Is there anybody who would like to speak before the council? All right, I'm going to close the public open forum. Felicia, come on up, and I'm excited to get started.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. It's truly my honor to present this year's Capital Improvement Program. I hope that you find heightened transparency and it as an educational tool. I hope that this helps educate the public in the process and the projects that we have going on. So having said that, this was an enormous amount of work for our staff. So I wanted to recognize all of the staff that helped, so particularly the Administrative Services Division. So Amy Ratliff, Jennifer Campbell, and Garrett Zeliff, and Cindy Nino. And then also the department directors, Daniel Simpson, Public Works Director, Chip Potts, Leisure Services Director, Tatiana Childress, Planning and Redevelopment Director, Susan Hurley, Library Director, Michelle Kutch, Human Resources Director, and tonight we also have the Assistant Chief Renee Neiman here with us. Chief couldn't be with us tonight, so I hope that you enjoy the new format. So let's start. So what is a CIP? Well, that's a capital improvement program. And so what exactly is a capital improvement? Right, so and for local governments, it's individual construction projects, equipment, it's major studies. Anything over a threshold of about $25,000 is what you'll see in this plan. But the 6-year capital improvement program is a plan that identifies the capital projects to be implemented. And it includes the year that it's going to start or be acquired, the amount expected to be spent each year, the proposed method of financing, and the council priority it supports. So what's the purpose of a capital improvement program? Provides a formal mechanism for decision making. It connects to our long-range planning efforts. We use it as a financial management tool, and it's a reporting document. So there are advantages of capital improvement programming, and so we get to focus on the community's needs and goals and financial capability. It builds the public's consensus for projects and improves community awareness. It avoids wasted resources. It helps to ensure our financial stability. It improves governmental cooperation and communication. So how are these capital projects funded? So Cindy Nino, as we go through the document, we're going to go through by fund. And so she's going to go into these in greater detail as we approach the fund, so that hopefully that it's easy for everyone to understand. So we have tax dollars. We have state and federal grant programs. We have local infrastructure taxes, like the penny for Pinellas. We have state shared revenues. We have ad valorem taxes, that's your property taxes. We have CRA increment financing revenues. We have developer agreements. We have water and sewer, stormwater utility revenue, impact fees. We have debt funding when needed. So where do these funds go? Where does that bucket of money go? It goes for governmental funds. So that's our general fund, a public safety impact fund, parkland dedication fund, multimodal impact fund, the Community Redevelopment Agency, and the Capital Improvement Fund. And those are our governmental funds, right? And then we have enterprise funds. Those run more like a business. So water and sewer operating fund, water and sewer impact fund, and stormwater utility funds. So it's going to take us a while, but we're going to take our time and go through each one of these. So we made a lot of changes this year. So I tried to put together a basic equation for how, I view the CIP. It's a demonstrated need for a project or a program, and then we look at projected revenue over the next 6 years, and then that creates a proposed program to us. What you'll see this time is extremely important to present a financial solvent document for you. So there's no longer projects in there that were in there that we don't have financing available for those. So what we did was we pulled those out into a new category. It's called unfunded. And we'll use the unfunded category to look for grant money and other financial alternatives to support these projects, but they're not supported within our current revenue profile. So you'll see that in the document. So I just wanted to make sure that's different and a departure from how we have done this in the past. So also you'll see that the proposed program expenses now are categorized by the city council goals and priorities. So that's new this year. You'll also see in the document online and in the book that you got, it went from about a 15-page book to about, I don't know how many pages is in, but over 100.
183?
183. And the reason is because we dedicated now a full page to each project. No matter what year it was in the total program, and that includes the proposed funding, a description, what's the public purpose, and then the community engagement level, consistent with the policy that you previously adopted this year. And then also, which is forthcoming, is a website interface. So we're going to have an interactive website that will launch sometime soon. And so that website has a capability of, it has a map, and you'll be able to click on a project on a map, and it will show you all the details associated with that project. So Jennifer Campbell has been working a lot with Garrett on that, and so I think you'll be particularly pleased to see that public interface when it's launched. So I wanted to take a few minutes before we dive into the program, because when you look at the CIP program, and you think about how much money you're spending for projects, it doesn't capture the projects we're doing now. So sometimes you may look and you may say, well, oh, it doesn't look like, particularly there's a lot of money in parks in the next year for general fund. And a lot of that is because we're doing an enormous amount of construction projects right now. And those take significant resources, financial resources, staff resources. So I wanted to take a moment and pause and talk about some of those things before we start with the document. So I'm only going to talk about one of them, and then I'm going to pass it on to Daniel Simpson. He's going to talk about most of them. So our capital projects that are in progress, gosh, $37 million, $430,000 worth of projects that are happening right now that will continue to happen next year. Those aren't all in this document because the money's already been allocated in a previous year. So if the money was allocated in that year, it's not going to show up in this year's plan. So I wanted to make sure that it was clear to the public that these projects didn't disappear. So here's a list of those that I thought were impactful. So the fire aerial, $1.15 million. Harbor Palms infrastructure, over $12 million for that project. Significant investment. The water reclamation control building, $6.5 million. The water reclamation aeration project, $4.8. Douglas Road widening, $6.5, almost $6.6. St. Pete Drive complete streets projects, about $4 million. And the State Street culvert, about $2 million. And those are estimates right now because we're not done spending the money. Right? So I want to take a few minutes and talk about those projects. So the fire aerial, you all remember we brought this to council, but this is to replace our main component for the delivery of fire services, right? Replace the vehicle as per the vehicle equipment replacement schedule. We're expecting delivery August of '24. So not this year, but next year. That's how long it takes. But the money, again, has already been allocated for that. So I'm going to invite Daniel Simpson up to tell you about the rest of the construction projects.
Good evening. So here we have a chart that shows some of the timelines, their estimated timelines for our projects. The big takeaway is we're expecting the Douglas Road project to be in construction next year, the aeration project to be under construction, the control building to be under construction, beginning the St. Pete Drive projects, and closing out Harbor Palms. So there's going to be a lot of hard construction happening next year. I'm going to give a brief overview on some of these projects so that in case anyone in the public is unfamiliar with them or hasn't been paying attention, we'll catch them up. Okay, so Harbor Palms infrastructure project. This, at its core, is a water main replacement project in the neighborhood of Harbor Palms. While we're there, these water mains have been met their useful life. They're leaking. They're a mess, as you might know. So we're replacing them. While we're replacing it, we're fixing all of the sidewalks and the roadway that have been damaged from the leaking water mains. And so it's right-of-way to right-of-way line upgrading this neighborhood. Phase 1's been completed. Phase 2 is continuing on. And Phase 3 is 60% complete. We expect the entire project we're expecting it to be done around the end of this calendar year. The WRF control building, the main goal here is to elevate, harden, and modernize. Main goals. So our current building was constructed in 1973. The building needs electrical upgrades. It's inefficient use of space with obsolete equipment, and we're trying to elevate it out of the floodplain so that we're resilient during storms and flood events. Currently, the status of the project is we're in the process of finalizing and submitting for permits. We're finalizing our grant agreement and working with the state for additional funding and finalizing our contract documents. We do anticipate encumbering that this fiscal year. The WRF aeration project. The aeration tanks are where the main biological process at the plant functions. It's similar to our stomachs where good bacteria eats up nutrients. So good bacteria needs oxygen, and this is giving more oxygen and more efficient blowers to aerate the bacteria. The status is that the construction is underway, and we've received our building permit. A lot of the parts for this have long lead times, so that's why you may not have seen a ton of construction at the plant, but it is in process. That project will take 2 years from when it began a few months ago, earlier this year, so it's a long project. Okay, next we have the Douglas Road project. This is a road widening with stormwater improvements and adding a trail. This will add safety for pedestrians and cyclists, and also right now we have trucks that park and stop on the roadway and there's no way to get around them, which is unsafe. Currently we're at 100% plans. They've been submitted to the state and they've provided comments back, and we're working through incorporating those comments. We expect to encumber that project this fiscal year, and we're finalizing our contract documents. So we're getting ready to bid. And it's on the agenda to request to advertise this next meeting. Okay, next is the St. Pete Drive streetscape project. So this is another safety improvement project, which will decrease lane widths, replace ditches with culverts, and replace and widen sidewalks and enhance the corridor from St. Pete Drive from Dartmouth to Bayview. It's basically taking that streetscape in front of the library and just generally continuing it to Bayview. So we're doing this because these improvements will increase the vitality, aesthetics, and functionality of the area, and also hopefully will stir the downtown development. And also, it's mainly at its core a traffic safety project to protect pedestrians and cyclists and golf carts and lower the speeds in that area. The next is the roundabout. This is really a second part to that project. At the roundabout, we are in design right now, designing the roundabout at Bayview. We've completed the survey for this, and we're incorporating it into the St. Pete Drive contract construction plans with the hope that we would bid it to one contractor. So the design should be finished this our construction should go to bid next fiscal year for both of those projects, okay? But the roundabout's purpose is to provide traffic calming and safety enhancement and to be a gateway into the CRA. Oh, did two. Okay. And then finally, the culvert at State Street. This project is in its infancy stages. We're working to move the grant along. We have two grants. One is a state appropriation, and one is a grant through the Housing and Urban Development Agency. So the federal grant requires environmental review. So it's I don't know the acronym, but NEPA environmental review. So before we do any design, we have to make sure that there's no endangered species and things like that. So there's a process to that, and we're working through that pre-design process right now. Next, back to Felicia.
Daniel,
Go ahead.
can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
When we're thinking of complete streets starting at the library and then going to Bayview, then we get to the roundabout. How far beyond the roundabout toward 580 does the undergrounding, the utilities, the streetscaping go?
It's that project ends just beyond the roundabout. Like it won't go beyond that. Now we are looking at doing project that way in the
Yeah,
future.
That's what I was kind of getting to, because I was like, are we going to get it all the way there eventually? I mean, I know this is a 6-year plan and all, but I was just curious. I thought that it stopped there due to the boundaries of the CRA in the middle of the street.
That was the original
But,
reason.
yeah.
Yes, it was ending at we're using CRA money to fund it, and then the roundabout we had the grant for it.
Yeah,
But it is our hope to continue in
Eventually.
the future.
cool. Thank you. I just wanted to double check.
Any other questions? No. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you. So I want to apologize. I didn't recognize John Dauphiné because he's not sitting here. He's out tonight. But he put an enormous amount of work into this as well. And I also wanted to introduce the Assistant Public Works Director, Jana Jan, is here with us tonight too. So feel free to ask questions as we go along at the appropriate time. I don't want you guys to wait until the end. I mean, you can wait, but you don't have to. And so, so next I'd like to introduce Cindy Nino.
Good evening. Okay, before we dive into the details of our 6-year plan, our $76 million 6-year plan, I did want to take another moment to give a shout out to John Dauphiné, who can't be, as Felicia mentioned, he can't be here tonight, Jennifer Campbell, Garrett Zealiff, and Amy Ratliff for all of their hard work on our new format for the CIP. I just couldn't be happier with the end result, so great job, guys.
Yes. Much better than the black and white book.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the next few slides will summarize our $76 million 6-year CIP through 4 different lenses. First of all, by fund. Let me put my glasses on.
Put your lens.
Okay, in fiscal year '24 for the general fund, we have $637,000 planned with a total 6-year plan of just over $6 million. Public Safety Impact Fund, $115,000 for fiscal year '24, $1.16 million for the 6-year plan. The Community Redevelopment Area Fund, just over $2 million next year, with the $10.3 million for the whole 6 years. The Capital Improvement Fund, $4.1 million next year. Total plan, $35.5 million. The Water Sewer Operating Fund, $2.2 million next year, 16.8, almost 16.9 total for the 6 years. Stormwater Utility Plan, or Stormwater Utility Fund, $400,000 for fiscal year '24, just over $6 million for the 6-year plan. But please note, as Felicia mentioned, there is a new unfunded category. That total is about $42 million in projects. It's not that these are projects that we have identified, but we currently don't have funding for them. Some of these will be contingent upon grant funding. Okay. The second summary will be by the funding source. General Fund, Public Safety Impact Fund, the CRA revenue, grant funding, federal and state, local option fuel taxes, penny for Pinellas, a major funding source, water sewer operating revenue, stormwater revenue, both of which you see on your utility bill, and again, the new unfunded category. Let's see. The biggest highlights out of this second summary, the summary of projects by funding source, the general fund, again, $637,000, the CRA just over $2 million next year. For grant funding, we're expecting over $2 million in grants. And then as well, we'll get into the details on those a little bit later. Penny for Pinellas, we're expecting to spend about $2 million out of our penny funds in fiscal year '24. And the total for the 6-year plan is about $5 million. We receive about $2 million per year in penny proceeds. So we're only going to be spending about $5 million in the 6 years. We're going to be saving the rest of it for future projects. Okay, other significant amounts would be the Water Sewer Operating Fund revenue at $2.2 million, almost $12 million for the 6-year plan. And again, the unfunded category, you'll see that reflected in various funds, but the total is for $42 million. Okay, and this is a new one, so we're pretty excited about this. This is summarizing the projects by the strategic goals and the council priorities. For the strategic goals, as you know, for the next year, it will be infrastructure, quality of place, sustainability, transportation, and workforce development. Okay, out of these goals, it is important to note that a lot of these projects check the boxes for multiple goals and multiple priorities. However, for coding purposes, we had to assign each project to one. We coded it to the most significant priority or goal. So it doesn't really represent the complete picture because, again, some of them may cover 3 different goals. But essentially, for infrastructure for next year, $2.4 million. Total for the 6-year plan, $15.4 million. Quality of place, $790,000. Total for the 6 years, almost $4.5 million. Sustainability, $625,000 next year, $3.1 million for the 6-year plan. Transportation, $5.5 next year, $10.2 for the 6-year plan. Workforce development, $250,000 next year, and a total of $750,000. Unfunded category, again, $42 million. And then council priorities. Again, this is a new summary that we couldn't do before. Thanks to our new system, we're able to provide this. First priority, build a downtown corridor, enhance roadway safety, safe routes to school, execute the Oldsmar Sports Complex improvements, expand community engagement, maintain existing infrastructure, renovate and upgrade Harbor Palms infrastructure, and update the comprehensive plan. For these priorities, build a downtown corridor, $50,000 next year, a total of $270,000 for the 6 years. Enhance roadway safety and safe routes to school, just over $5 million next year, total of $8.5 million. Execute the Oldsmar Sports Complex improvements for $410,000, a total of $1.8 million, $1.68 million. It is important to note that we've just recently completed the BMX track and some other major improvements out of that fund. That's why that may look low, but a great deal of work has already been done just in the recent year. Expand community engagement, $90,000 next year, $885,000 for the 6 years. Maintain existing infrastructure, $3.7 million next year, $22.6 million for the 6-year plan. And then once again, the unfunded category, $42 million. Okay. Now we'll roll right into the general fund. This will be the first fund that we're going to present. Yes?
Can I have one question, please?
Sure.
So in the CRA in 2025, it's blank. Is that because it expires?
No, that's because we don't have, some projects will already be in progress at that point, and that's why we don't have anything.
Okay, so there's nothing.
Yeah, there'll be things moving along, but
Nothing for that year.
no, not necessarily any new funding. We'll likely identify some more projects that we'll include in next year's CIP. But for 25, we're just expecting the current projects to be in motion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the general fund. The general fund has several funding sources. This is the general government services fund, basically. Ad valorem revenue makes up about 15% of the general fund. We also have utility taxes, communication services tax, local business tax receipts, franchise fees, state shared revenues, charges for services, program fees, and then investment earnings and rents and royalties, as well as fines and forfeitures. The biggest revenue sources for this fund would be ad valorem utility taxes, communication services tax, and franchise fees, and of course, the state shared revenues. The capital and general fund is limited to the governmental equipment, vehicles, and relatively minor building improvements, in typically a single funding source, which would be the general fund revenues. Okay, the next several slides have the projects broken out specifically, which the department heads will go through their budgets and explain the various projects, so I won't get into those. Okay, so as you can see, on the summary page, the total for the general fund next year, $637,000, with a total of 5.5 for the 6-year plan. We have identified 2 unfunded projects in the general fund. Both of them are in the out years, National Orange Boat Ramp and a trail, and then the Monument Walk at Veterans Park. That doesn't mean we're not going to do them. It just means currently we don't have the funding in place to do that. So we'll be looking, we may be looking for grant funds, donations, or other revenue sources to pay for those. Okay, and with that, I will hand it over to Daniel Simpson, Public Works Director.
Okay. So the first division is technical services, and we just have one replacement vehicle on the 12-year replacement cycle. Next, to the streets division. You see that there's a 12-yard dump truck. This is our critical truck for moving sand, dirt, debris, and towing our large vehicles, or excuse me, our large equipment. Next, there's a 1-ton truck. We've identified a need in that division for an additional vehicle. Our chipper, it's on a 12-year replacement cycle, so that's a planned replacement. The Sandwater and Shoreview median installation. This is a beautification project to reduce impervious area. Sandwater and Shoreview lanes are right off of Kilsyth, and it's just a big circle of asphalt. We'd like to add in a median that will help reduce our impervious. And then trip hazard elimination. This is where we hire a contractor to move through the streets and remove as many trip hazards as possible. Normally they do about 600 for $50,000, and then they give us a list of anything that's deficient beyond their capacity, and then we can schedule those for replacement and the traditional replacement. Okay. Next we have the library with Susan.
Thank you. I prefer this one anyway. All right, good evening.
Hi, Susan.
Hello. All right, well, we're going to be talking about the general fund for the library. Our first is our books and materials. This is an annual expense, and it's the money we spend every year to ensure that the collection is current and up to date, and that we can provide materials in a variety of formats. The next item is a roof replacement for the building. It is the membrane layer of the roof, which is the flat portion of the roof, not the tiled portion that you can see from the road, but the flat portion that covers the majority of the building. That is original to the building's construction, which was 16 years ago. The warranty for that expired last year in 2022, and the material has reached its useful life and it's wearing out, so it's time for that to be replaced. The final item that we have on our budget for the library is out in 2028, when the building is 20 years old, to do a restroom renovation on the 3 public bathrooms that we have in the building. Any questions?
I remember when the ribbon cutting was for that library. I
Me
can't believe it's
too.
16 years ago.
We do. All right, well, I'm going to hand it off to Chip Potts with the Leisure Services Department.
Thank you.
I'll take this one. Thank you, Sue. Good evening, Chip Potts, Director of Leisure Services. Set this up here. Slide that back. Stay up there. Okay. Okay. So here's an overview of the general fund for parks for the CIP projects. And as you can see, most of the projects for parks are in the out years, and they mainly consist of maintaining our infrastructure, those types of projects, with our park shelters, replacing fencing at the dog park, and as you can see, some roof repair at the in our shelters. Excuse me. So. As I said, most of the projects are in the out years. Our only project for 2024 is for a pickup truck replacement, and that is for transporting our crew to and from their job sites. One of the highlights that we do have in the in the general fund is our master plan project in 2025. Now, the master plan is a very important document. Our last one was created in 2001, so it is very, very old. So what the master plan is, it's a long-range plan of 10 to 15 years that helps us shape the direction and the development and delivery of our parks and recreation programs and services. It'll help us reimagine our vision and goals, and it'll ensure that we meet the needs of our residents today while also promoting a healthy, sustainable park system for our future. So that's an exciting project, and we're looking forward to that one to get us back on track from a master plan standpoint. So there it is right there. And then, again, there's our summary of our projects. Okay, moving on to recreation. Again, not a lot of, oh, excuse me. Yes.
Before you leave that, I would guess you would call the median beautification line item, the
Okay.
$60,000 in 26, 27. Are we going to be putting these in and then maintaining them within, are these like
So the idea,
roads, or you know how we kind of have outsourced some of that more
Right.
dangerous work to
Right.
contracting?
so this isn't necessarily the work, this is to reestablish medians, and this
Okay.
would be over in the Bayside area, Bayside
Yeah.
Boulevard area,
Okay.
to kind of brighten that area.
Yeah.
So we would install new material over there, make them more beautiful, and then we would maintain those afterward. That's typically done by our Ultimar Sports Complex crew who handles those medians.
Gotcha, because those are mostly down to dirt now, I think. 'Cause,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, no rain, but yeah.
Right, so they would be Florida-friendly landscaping, because those are not irrigated.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to double check. on
Yes.
Chip,
Yes.
one quick question. It's actually a question for you and Daniel simultaneously. It's really not, it's just an idea concept. I'm curious on the 12-yard dump truck and the dump truck brush.
Okay.
How often are those used? Could a single vehicle be used and shared between departments? I guess I'm just thinking
Sure.
outside the box. on that.
Those are two different vehicles. As Daniel said, his vehicle in Public Works is used to haul heavier equipment, sand, dirt, concrete, the big stuff. This brush truck is different. It's used to collect trees and brush during the day when we do our parks maintenance with whether it's tree removal, Brazilian pepper removal. The Ultimar Sports Complex uses it to haul clay and sand as well. But it's a lighter machine. It also does not require a CDL, as does the larger dump truck. So any of our staff can drive the brush truck.
The
Big
brush
difference.
truck's the one you see in the medians, right? On some
Yes.
of the boulevards when
Yes.
they're pulling the, yeah.
It's a little bit shorter, a little bit wider, but it has high walls on it on
Yeah,
the side.
I gotcha.
And it's a busy truck.
It's every day. It's a busy
Every-
truck.
Every
Yeah,
day,
that's
yeah.
hard to figure out, is how often was that used, how often was the other one used, could be shared, but I get it now, it's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on to recreation. In the recreation fund, we don't have a lot of projects coming up in recreation. We do have a, HVAC system replacement for the State Street Center, which is scheduled for next year. And then outside of that, we're looking at a gym floor replacement and installing some retractable shades on the backside of the Cypress Forest Recreation Center. Right now, there's just some picnic tables with some umbrellas, but a retractable shade would allow us to do a little bit more programming out there and provide shade during the summertime when we have summer camps and other activities going on. Okay. Oldsmar Sports Complex, here's an overview of our fund. As you can see, there are no projects for 2024. Everything is in an out year at this point. Some of the highlights there that you can see are the BMX track surface upgrade. This is a biannual program, so we don't do this every year, but what we do is we need to maintain those 4 straights at the track so that they remain functional and kind of new. We don't want riders to get bored. This will reinforce maybe new ridership, and it'll also create a new experience for our riders. And then you can see some of the other projects that are in the out years with maintaining our ball fields. We have a concession door replacement for the soccer and football concession stand area, and then some track lighting upgrades in the distant years out there in 2029. So that's just there's our overview of the Oldsmar Sports Complex. Okay, communications, marketing, and the arts.
Thanks, Chip. Communication, marketing, and the arts. As you can see, there's $40,000 in there pretty much every other year. This is funded through 1% of our capital improvement projects that are really above ground projects, building related. So 1% gets allocated into this fund, and it funds things recently like the wings outside, and then also Gus and Lena's, Ocampa Silva's Winter's Way.
Cool.
Cindy?
Thank you, Felicia. Okay, next year for Administrative Services Information Technology Division, we are planning for continued upgrades to the AV system right here in this room. We every year we identify a piece of the system that we would like to upgrade. This year we're going to be doing cameras, and next year we'll just keep chipping along until we keep everything fresh and working properly. We're also continuing our commitment to maintaining a secure and reliable IT network for the city, and we're continuing to make investments in the equipment, computers, even the secure access wireless spots. We're going to be upgrading those. The fiber upgrades, that's mostly an as-needed project. The construction continues throughout the city. Sometimes our fiber is cut, so we have to go in and get that replaced quickly. We typically don't know who did it, but we still have to have some funding available to make those repairs when needed. Total for next year, $170,000, and for the 6 years, $1.17 million. Daniel Simpson.
Okay, next is fleet maintenance. We just have 2 vehicles that are being replaced on the 12-year replacement cycle. The first is used for going and fixing vehicles that are broken, like out, like a truck to go save them, I guess you call it. And then the other is the main smaller vehicle that we use as a loaner truck, but also go and get parts. Okay, next is Chip with the facilities.
Thank you. Okay, facility maintenance. Once again, a lot of projects that are in the out years here, and these all relate to the maintenance of our buildings, our infrastructure. You can see there are some vehicle replacements on schedule, one being the bucket truck. Currently, our bucket truck is a 32-foot bucket truck. We're hoping to increase the reach on that to 65 feet. That would allow us to actually do a little bit more work, whether it's tree work or actually replace light bulbs at some of the athletic complexes, because we can't reach them now with a 32-foot. So that's our hope from that request. Next year we do have a project, one project, not the only thing they're going to be doing, just the only project, but carpet replacement at City Hall. And then there's some other carpet replacements you'll see in the out years, as well as a garage door replacement at the Municipal Services Building, and then the HVAC replacement that's scheduled here at the council chambers in 26 and 27.
We could just wait till we get the fire aerial to replace the light bulbs.
I don't think I haven't thought about that. Okay, public safety impact.
Okay, me again. Okay, so for the Public Safety Impact Fund, if you're following along in your book, it's page 78. We've made a great deal of progress so far. Okay, what is the Public Safety Impact Fund? This fund is supported by two main revenue sources. First one is 1/10 of 1 mil transfer of ad valorem taxes from the general fund, and that runs about $185,000 a year. That's what it is for 23 anyway. And then the Public Safety Impact Funds, which comes from development, and that's generally runs about $30,000 a year. Investment earnings are also accumulated in this fund, which also helps pay for the capital projects. The use of the funds in this use of these funds are restricted to fire capital only. They cannot be used to cover any operating cost. And Renee Neiman, Assistant Chief, is here to go through the projects.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Hi.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, better. So we currently have 11 projects in the 6-year plan. 5 of those are for updates and maintenance to the building itself. The other 5 are related to vehicle and equipment replacement. There is one new project for a diesel exhaust removal system in 2026, which would help capture some of those vehicle exhausts, promote that cancer prevention awareness that we're working towards in the service. Next year, we do have a project for replacing all of our mobile radios. Well, not all of them. We have 9 throughout our vehicles. These are the ones we have in the vehicles that allow us to communicate with dispatch and the other units. 3 of them are newer, but the other 6 are outdated and no longer serviceable. So we were looking to replace 5. We will have one that the county is going to assist us with replacing through our ALS agreement. The 2 other remaining projects are again back to station maintenance. Our building was erected in 2002, so some of that age is starting to show. So we've put that over the 2 years, taking care of the crew quarters with cabinets and flooring, and then we'll do the admin side as well. So total for next year, 2024, is $115,000. Any questions? Okay.
Nay. How's the bathroom replacement fix going, the one that's happening right now?
It is finally, we've got one complete and the other one started. So.
Yeah, that was kind of, we didn't quite make it to the schedule, but I
Yeah,
was
so
curious about that.
It'll be
Thanks.
nice to have 2 fully functional bathrooms again.
Yeah, good deal.
Okay. So we'll turn that back over to Cindy.
Okay, Community Redevelopment Agency Fund. This fund has a few different revenue sources. Mostly it is tax increment financing revenue from the city and this county, as well as multimodal impact fees and, of course, the investment revenue. The revenue in this fund is restricted for downtown CRA improvements and as well as some operating costs. The tax increment financing amounts are based on an increase in taxable values for the downtown area since the start of the CRA. Some of the project highlights include the streetscape project, which is the complete streets. That's for the part that is within the CRA. The downtown mobility study, it's about $1 million in 2026. And Ms. Tatiana will go into more details on some of the other projects. There is one unfunded project in the CRA, and that would be the theater, a total of $5 million estimated. Okay, with that, I will turn it over to Tatiana Childress, the Planning Director.
Thank you, Cindy. Hello, Tatiana Childress, Planning and Redevelopment Director. So we have multiple projects under the CRA. For the CRA funding of necessity, we have 50,000 in 2024. The CRA is sunsetting in 2026, and we're currently working with the JI consultant on the feasibility of extending our CRA. Depending on the results of the current study, the city may have to file a new finding of necessity report and also work on the new CRA plan. For the downtown mobility study, currently we're in the process of setting up a project in collaboration with Forward Pinellas as their and their subconsultant on downtown mobility study. City was one of the grant recipients from Forward Pinellas for this. The study is expected to generate a project priority list, mainly aimed at improving connectivity and safety within our downtown area. And the line item for 1 million in 2026 is to fund the project priority list associated with the study. The St. Petersburg streetscape and drainage project was covered by Daniel Simpson in prior presentation. For the theater, we have 50,000 in 2026. This project will include a feasibility study for locating a theater in our downtown area. For the safe route to school, we have 300,000 in 2027 for the design and 1,700,000 for the construction. So the safe routes to school was provided as a high priority for council. The city is currently working with Oldsmar Elementary on establishing safe routes to school program to enhance roadway safety for all users, including children, by making it safer for more children to walk and bicycle to school within the downtown area. And projects may include sidewalks, updates, various intersection improvements, ADA compliance. The city is also currently working on the application through DOT for grant through State Routes to School program, Safe Routes to School program, sorry. For the next one, the intersection traffic calming, we have 110 in 2026, 110,000 in 2026 and 2027. This project is mainly to replace existing brick paving within the right-of-way intersections in downtown area, like you can see it on State Street. The design and construction associated with the theater is in 2027 and 2028 is currently under unfunded category. And with that, I will give it back to Cindy.
Tatiana?
Yes.
For the safe routes to school, in 2028, the actual infrastructure component at 1.7, is that the placeholder for CRA funds from the city or our estimate of total cost? Because that seems low.
That is the construction cost for the sidewalk improvements
Okay,
from the
just the
CRA.
sidewalk. Yeah,
But we're
okay.
hoping to receive funding from DOT as well to supplement it.
Okay,
And the
that's what I
design is
thought.
separate. The design is estimated at 300,000. It's just an estimate at this point, just a
Yeah.
placeholder for now.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I figured, because we wouldn't want to put in a grant that we don't yet have an application for or anything
Correct.
to put in for. Okay, I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Tatiana. Okay, Capital Improvement Fund. This is a fund that we use to track and accumulate resources needed to fund the city's major capital projects. Most of these projects have complex funding, which makes it very important to keep everything in one place so we can keep track of it and know how we're going to pay for these projects. There's several revenue sources that go into this fund. Local option fuel taxes, which are collected at the fuel pump. That is typically used to fund our annual street resurfacing program, along with some penny funds. Penny for Pinellas is a major funding source for our capital projects. A lot of the state and federal grant proceeds go into this fund, as well as some investment earnings to pay for our projects. Please note this fund is for governmental funds only, governmental projects, and it's not related to anything for an enterprise fund, which would be water, sewer, or stormwater. Okay, kind of a summary of the projects that are in this fund include the complete streets. We're going to be getting grant funding for $1 million, a federal grant. We're also looking at receiving $1 million for the roundabout. We've been notified that we will be receiving this grant and we can expect it, but we don't have anything official just yet. Also, we have the citywide street resurfacing, as I mentioned. That is partially funded from the penny for Pinellas as well as local option fuel taxes. Penny for Pinellas projects. Some of the biggest projects that are funded by penny money would be the streets portion of the asbestos water main replacement project, which you also see in a couple different places, specifically, especially the water sewer fund. There's also, again, the complete streets. This will be the south side of the project, $1 million for penny money. We're going to use to pay for the rest of it. Total for penny next year is $1.938 million. Total for the 6-year plan, about $4.9 million. Again, we have some unfunded projects. They total about $27 million, including a new city hall and then some resilient ready projects. Daniel Simpson, our Public Works Director, will go through the rest of the projects.
Thank you. Okay, first, the asbestos water main project. This project will look a lot like Harbor Palms Phase 3 in the sense that it will be a replacement of the deteriorating water mains and that have met their useful life, redoing the sidewalks, the roadway, and stormwater features. That's why it's funded in the 302 fund or the capital improvement fund, but also you'll see it in stormwater and the water sewer utility. So I'm only going to review it here. Next, the City Hall EOC building. If or when the City Hall, if the City Hall is sold and the downtown redevelops and it's included, we'll need a new City Hall. So we are planning and programming for that project. So we'll need to relocate our City Hall people, the people that work in City Hall, to another place. Next reason why we're looking at this project is City Hall and Municipal Services Center need maintenance and are not constructed to be resilient during hurricanes. The next reason is a hardened and elevated structure would be a base of operations during hurricanes and other emergencies. And this building could serve the needs of the city staff and provide a continuity of operations. And finally, the city does not currently own any risk category 4 buildings. The next project is the street resurfacing program. Currently, these are the streets we plan to pave next fiscal year. Typically, I give a priority list, but since we have a contract in place and the funding should be the same, this is what we plan to do. So it's Pine Avenue from Shore Drive to Buckingham, Arlington Avenue from Franklin Street to Buckingham, Buckingham Avenue from Federal Street to St. Pete Drive, Oakwood Boulevard from St. Petersburg Drive to State Road 580, and Gray Bark, pretty much the whole thing. Next, we have our Resilient Ready, RE Olds Park and Streets. So the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, we had a grant and design charrettes done last year, and it was a reimagining of our RE Olds Park in our downtown area. And so basically the idea was to learn to live with water versus try to avoid it. So the project is to, at RE Olds Park, would be to complete a design and cost estimate and permitting for the Resilient Ready projects, and to construct and reimagine RE Olds Park. And then on the streets would be to transform the medians into stormwater features using low impact design. So this is program, we're looking to get grants for these projects, but this is the, we've figured we'd start budgeting it. Next, Chip Potts.
Thank you again, Daniel. Okay, so 2 projects out of the Capital Improvement Fund at the Oldsmar Sports Complex related to the BMX track. The first one is to resurface the turns that are at the track. And all of you have been at the track. You've been on top of the hill. I don't know if you had the opportunity to go and walk the track and walk the turns themselves, but those turns are asphalt, kind of like you have out on your streets. And over time, those deteriorate just like our streets do. And you can imagine with the ridership and the tires that go around that track time after time after time after time, you start to lose some of that granular material. So to maintain a safe course and a world-class facility, we're looking to resurface those turns. One of the other improvements at the BMX complex is the sunshades. You guys have been to the top of the hills. You've been out there in the heat. You've seen it's hot, hot, hot up there at the top of the hills, right where the starting gates are, both at the 5 and the 8-meter hill. Sunshades out there would serve two purposes. One, it would keep our staff out of the sun and protect them from the sun and its heat. The other thing is what it would do is for the riders, and you've seen them out there, they're in full gear, long sleeves, long pants, helmets. And to be out there in that sun year-round, it's pretty tough. So the installation of sunshades would not only provide protection for the staff and the riders, but it would probably also encourage more ridership throughout the hotter months when the sun's just blaring straight down. Two projects from the park side from the Capital Improvement Fund are the trail bridge repair at Moccasin Creek. There's 4 bridges out through Moccasin Creek, all of which are in need of repair. We just did a little Band-Aid job out there on one of the trail bridges, but that's just going to get us by for a little bit. So this will address the issues that are persisting and are coming. You know, they're coming due. They are ready for replacement. And then the other one is the wooden trail bridge replacement at 580 and St. Pete Drive, right down here by Jack Willie's. Again, that bridge is ready for replacement. It's a main route to and from school. It crosses, right across from St. Pete Drive and 580 over towards Forest Lakes area. So this is a project that needs to be addressed just to keep it safe and to keep it functional. Yes, sir.
One quick question. You mentioned the resurfacing of the turns at the BMX track. Do you actually remove that blacktop and replace it, or you just cover over it?
We are going to be working with a contractor to find the best way to do that. There is, if you just go over the turns themselves, you may risk the chance of that granular material that's still underneath giving way and coming off. So we're going to work with a contractor to find out the best way to do that.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, like a regular road.
And there, get back to.
Okay, this is just a final summary of the Capital Improvement Fund projects, and move on to the Water Sewer Operating Fund. If you're following along in the book, it's page 117. And revenue in the Water Sewer Operating Fund generally comes from your utility bill. So the water, you'll see water sales, reclaimed water sales, if you have reclaimed, wastewater sales, and then sometimes there's some other user charges. Most of that comes from your utility bill, and that is used to fund operations and the projects. Occasionally we get some grant money for some of the big projects, such as the control building, which is going on right now, and then of course some earnings on the investments that we have set aside for the reserves. Okay, the next one. Some of the major projects that we have coming up include, and this is all from water sewer operating revenue, the asbestos water main replacement project, the water component of it, the gravity sewer lining, that's an annual program, water meter replacements, and the filter for capacity extension. Daniel Simpson, the Public Works Director, will go into these projects in detail. I just wanted to give you a good overview of the funding sources, which again is the water sewer operating revenue. We do have one unfunded project in the water sewer operating fund, and that was the sewer collection system for East Oldsmar. Currently that project is unfunded, but it's in an out year, so we have some time to either look for some grant funding or earmark some resources to cover that. Okay, and next one. Okay, in the Water Sewer Operating Fund, we also have the Finance Division. The only project we have scheduled for the Finance Division would be an ERP system replacement. We've been looking at this project for a number of years, and we think we can get this done for about $750,000, with $250,000 in the next year. This is basically the accounting system that runs the entire city. It does your utility bills, it keeps track of all the budgets, the accounting, building permits, planning, fees, just about everything else. Anything with a dollar sign.
How dated is that software?
It's the same. We bought the original system back in '99. It's updated over time.
Right.
It's the current. We're just looking at some different options. We've had this system for a long time. It's not a 1999 system. It's been. It gets continuous updates. So.
Right, but there's better, more optimized systems out there now.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. This will be a significant staff undertaking for this project, and then we expect it to take at least 2 years to fully implement it successfully. So. Okay, and now we'll turn it over to Daniel Simpson, Public Works Director.
All right, we're into the utility.
I gotta know what a zombie vehicle is. You have to tell me about the zombie vehicle.
Oh, the zombie vehicle is in there.
The three-quarter ton truck.
So the way that we would often hold on to old vehicles beyond their useful life in order to, like, try to save the city money, to be honest. That we felt like at the end of the day in the fleet was costing us more money than it was worth. And so we're programming to replace vehicles and their normal replacement.
Yeah. I could tell that seemed to happen a couple of times in this
Yeah.
department.
Sorry. Okay, so first we're on the utility maintenance division. The first project that we want to highlight is the lift station repair. This is where we go in and replace our piping, valves, and pumps at a lift station. There's 26 lift stations in the city besides the main lift station to the plant. So, but we have a routine maintenance schedule we're going through and replacing one a year. Currently, we're planning on replacing Gull Air next fiscal year and the Pine lift station and Dunkirk the following. So those are like the next 3 years. That could change based on if one dies, you know.
No zombie lift stations.
No zombie lift stations. That's actually our motto in utility maintenance.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. Some of the other items in this division, we have, like we mentioned, the three-quarter ton truck. We've identified that as a need. The crane truck, that's a 12-year replacement cycle. That's what we use to actually get the pumps out of the lift station. And there's other reasons we need a crane truck. Additionally, the mobile pumps, those are used for bypass pumping at the lift stations. So during emergencies, those are key because typically we have power outages. It's easier to hook up a pump than a generator, but we also have a generator for power outages. Again, the lift station, the mobile pump and the trailer mounted generators are just being replaced on the normal replacement cycle. Okay, next we have the distribution and collection division. First, I'd like to highlight the Gull Air Village valve replacement. So in Gull Air Village, there's very few working valves. And so when we have a water meter break or a problem with the water system, we can't isolate the problem, so therefore there's a boil water notice over most of the neighborhood. So putting in valves will give us the ability to isolate just the streets that have issues. If you work in distribution collection, you want as many valves as you can get, okay?
Yeah.
The next is their water meter replacement project. This has been ongoing for several years, but we are trying to move all of the meters in the city to radio read meters. This is a more efficient system, both for our meter readers and our billing staff. We're able to do rereads much more easily, and it'll cut down on our meter reading routes. Another few items of note, the vacuum truck excavator, or the vacuum excavator truck is in for replacement. That is our main way that we use it to vacuum excavate, like for meter replacements or sewer clogs. Like when you have a break in the pipe, we need to quickly remove the soil so that we can get to the pipe. We also use it to pump down lift stations, and we use it in stormwater for a number of items. We are planning to upgrade our truck because the capacity is not what it needs to be. So the new truck would be 3 times the volume, which makes us be able to have less back and forth. So you pump it down. It makes us more efficient.
Where does that get dumped? Just curious.
In the zombie lipstick.
I don't know if I want to know. I see that.
Where do you live? I'm just kidding.
That makes sense.
We have a place that it goes. I don't know. It depends on what it is. If it's stormwater, it goes one place. If it's sanitary sewer, it goes somewhere else.
I figured.
Yeah, I don't think you. I'm not. I'll get you the answer. I don't know that answer.
Some
off the
things
top of my
we're
head.
just better off not knowing.
Yeah.
We don't need to see how all of the sausage is made.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another item of note, the gravity sewer lining. That is a project that we've had ongoing. That's where we go through and line our sewer pipes. It's our main maintenance on sewer pipes. That reduces our infiltration, which one of our biggest problems at our wastewater plant is getting too much stormwater at the plant. So stormwater doesn't go to the wastewater plant, just sanitary sewer, meaning your toilet flush. So we're trying to reduce that. That's always a goal, to reduce the amount of stormwater that gets to the plant, because that's really the biggest struggle we have.
Is it because then you have to treat more water than you should have
Yes.
to?
So when it rains, when you have some of these cities that have the bad issues, like you'll read in the paper, that's because of a lot of stormwater is getting into the system. So the way we mitigate that is by lining the pipes, by making sure that we have manholes covered, and that at your house the cleanouts have caps on them.
Yeah.
Otherwise we're taking stormwater to the plant and we're processing it at an expensive rate where it is safe to just go to the bay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I also want to highlight the sewer. I said the sewer lining, the sewer line assessment project. This is where we hire a contractor to go through and run a video camera through our pipes. This is our proactive preventative maintenance. We have to do a certain amount of maintenance, proactive inspection a year as part of our permitting. But this is our main way that we avoid problems we don't know about, So as a general rule, we're always trying to move towards proactive away from reactive. So that's one of our main successful projects we've been able to implement. And I think that's all I wanted to highlight for this fund.
Daniel, I had a question. As far as the water meter replacement goes, right now in that furthest out year, there's no money allocated. Is it just that we expect to continue to operate and that we will have achieved that replacement kind of saturation point around that time? Or will we then be faced with starting to see replacement of the actual radio meters as well?
So the answer is yes and no. We don't really know in any given year how much we can replace because we don't know what the cost will be when we buy them, right? Because cost of any kind of metal is going up. So the hope would be to get to a point where we complete it all, but we're not budgeting for it yet because we're going to see where we're at.
Okay, makes sense.
I didn't mention the sewer collection system. So in East Oldsmar, that's South Racetrack area. They're all on septic tanks, which is something that we're trying to move away from. But currently, it's going to be an expensive project because we need multiple lift stations because it's low and it covers a lot of distance. There's legislation always kind of on the fringe of happening that would force us to do it. So we're looking at how we can prepare for this project.
Yeah.
Do you know how many septic tanks we're talking about? 20, 30?
It's each lot that has a house has one.
Right, I know.
It's in I want to say about 50,
50.
but there's several lots that are buildable that could have them in the future,
Right.
you know?
So we have to do it for each
Gotcha.
lot. So $5 million, 50 lots.
Well,
Yeah.
the main
It's a
thing is
lot.
it would be, I mean, septic tanks are bad for water quality, so it would be a huge benefit. We're optimistic that we would be well positioned for a grant when we decide to do this project. So we're starting to plan on that, but obviously nobody's really interested in that project right this second, you know?
Until the legislature says.
Right.
Surprise!
It's time.
Yeah, they talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
This year.
Okay, so the water reclamation facility. So first, I wanted to discuss the filter number 4 capacity expansion. So in our plant, we have currently 3 filter bays, and this would be completing the, like, we have a 4th one that doesn't have any equipment in it. So the reason we would do this is for resiliency, meaning like we can process more water when it comes, and also we have a goal of re-rating our plant to 2.99 million gallons per day. That is the threshold that if we go over, we have to change our operations from a plant operator standpoint, how many people we have on duty. So that's kind of the number we want to get to. And so this is one of the key projects to get us to that goal, because being able to process more wastewater is always good. The next project is the WRF master plan. So we will be looking at that sanitary septic to sewer as part of this project, but this is a 10-year plan that looks at our CIP and our facility and determines what we need to plan for, and how we can move the plant forward. See if I have anything. Again, we're trying to move from a proactive to reactive model, and build resilience in our plant. Like, that's kind of the two things. When it comes to any of the utility, we're really looking to be proactive versus reactive and being more resilient. Okay. Some other points to mention are internal pumps, lift station pump replacement. Excuse me. That. I don't know. That is the pump that moves water within the plant. Okay. We have the main lift station emergency bypass pump. So if we have the main lift station is made of 3 pumps. Normally we only need 1, occasionally 2. That pump, if we have 1 or 2 of them go down, we're able to hook up a big mobile pump and run the lift station. It replaces nearly 1 pump. Okay. There's a redundant screw press. So we have a screw press. This was a second screw press. We always want redundancy when we talk about utilities, because if one goes down, we want it to work. But this takes and removes water from our sludge, which less water means less cost because it's based on weight when we haul it away. We have a roof replacement and then a stabilization tank. This is for when we have, if an industrial user were to dump acid or some kind of caustic thing on us, we're able to isolate that so that it doesn't kill our plant. You know, because if you have some nasty acid come in, it could kill all of the bacteria. So we isolate it to treat it. And the plant lift station resiliency, that is elevating the lift stations inside the plant in order to be more resilient, so we get them out of the floodplain and harden them. Okay, to our reverse osmosis water treatment plant. Okay, first we have our degasification system rehab. So this is replacing the media in our degasification stacks. This removes the hydrogen sulfide, which is the rotten egg smell, so that it's at the plant and not at your house. So this replaces that system, which is in need of, like, it's met its useful life. And the media degrades, which causes, due to water friction, and this causes fouling and can affect our water quality. Some other items of note, we have the RO membrane replacement. Those are our skids. Those are that's what does reverse osmosis. Those are the membranes. We have gotten well past the warranty out of our current ones, but they're functioning decent, but it's time to plan on replacing them. And so that we have programmed, and we plan on SCADA improvements every 3 years. SCADA is the computer system that the operators use to run the plant. So we plan on that. The trailer mounted generator, that generator is for running wells if the power goes out. So we can hook up a generator and run some of the wells that don't have backup generators. We are planning for well pump replacement and well site fencing. We've determined that it would be good to increase our security at our wells. Okay, on to Environmental Management Fund. We have 2 items. One is the local limits assessment. We do this every periodically due to it's a permit requirement, but we have to do a full one that will, like we do it in-house every other time we have to do it. I believe it's every 5 years. Yep. And so this time we're going to, for the one that's in 2029, we are going to hire a consultant to do it. That's determining what we can accept when it comes to how much grease, like milligrams per liter, how much the different minerals that we can take at the wastewater plant. And then a pickup truck that is scheduled for replacement in the 12-year replacement. Back to Cindy's going to explain the Stormwater Utility Fund.
Great job, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, the Stormwater Utility Fund, if you're following along in your book, it's page 174, almost the end. Okay. The Stormwater Utility Fund is, the main revenue sources are stormwater utility fees. Both residential and commercial fees are collected from your utility bill. There is also some fees that come in for a buy-in, and this is a stormwater buy-in for the downtown. I believe it's the downtown area. And that comes with new development. And then we do get a lot of grant revenue that comes into the stormwater fund as well. Okay, some of the projects that are funded, have multiple funding sources, include, we're getting for the State Street culvert, we're getting a state grant and a federal grant to cover that project. Also, for the other big project in here, it would be stormwater master plan projects. Those are currently unfunded, and these projects will, Daniel can explain that when he gets to his projects, but these projects will come out of the current stormwater master plan, and they will, once they're identified, then we'll look for funding to pay for them.
Okay.
Okay, back to Daniel Simpson.
To answer your earlier question, our grease and what we pump out of the lift stations goes to the grease depot. It's in Clearwater. Welcome to go visit it anytime. I'd love to have you.
So we have to drive essentially the vac truck capacity requires us to drive down to Clearwater and then go back and then to Clearwater and then go
Exactly.
back because of the lesser capacity. That's what I figure. I'm like, we're not putting it in the backyard.
Yeah, right.
It's sort of like,
Not my backyard.
it's like trash and recycling. The fewer trucks they have, the more trips they make, then we have residents with unpicked up trash.
That was good. I should write that down for next year.
Yes.
So first, so she mentioned the stormwater master plan. This project is underway currently, but we have programmed projects that will come out of that. We don't know what those will be, but we're going through a process of determining first we're updating our model, but then also determining what our greatest needs are concerning stormwater, and then engaging the public and determining what they view as the greatest needs, and then determining a criteria for ranking those projects, and then programming them in our 6-year CIP. But we'll plan on a 10 years of projects out of this plan. I mentioned the culvert at State Street. The design is in 2024 plan for that, and then the actual construction in 2025. We have a few vehicles and equipment that's just on their normal replacement, their normal 12-year replacement. We mentioned the asbestos water main project and the Moxon Creek bank stabilization. So that is by tidal wave where the Moxon Creek turns and goes into East Lake Oaks. And we're getting erosion in that area. And so we're coming up with a low impact development way to resolve that problem. And we're looking for grants for that project. The Shore Drive East drainage improvements, that's a project that's been on here for a little bit, but this is to resolve some of the drainage issues on Shore Drive. And that's all I have there. Back to Felicia.
Thank you. That's the end of our presentation. I wanted to mention what are the next steps in the budget process, right? So our next steps are you'll consider scheduling an operating budget work session, and that's on your next council agenda item. So then we'll talk about the operating budget, and then we'll have 2 public hearings before a budget is formally adopted for October. You guys, so thank you to our team for all the time and effort and diligence that you all took to put this together. I'm hoping that it really does increase our transparency and makes it easy to understand.
Great job,
So
team.
thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
I just had
Question, go ahead,
couple
Katie.
quick things. This format was a lot easier to understand, especially with the pictures. I'm a visually oriented person. I really appreciate this over the black and white book. You guys know what I'm talking about, the black and white book, because it was really hard to understand the overlap first. This makes it easier to see when funds overlap to fund one project. That's really nice, because before I was always asking, and I sounded like an idiot, where is this coming from and why is it doubled? I think that this is a lot more interactive. I know it was a lot more work, like a lot more, but this is really worth it, at least for me. I'm sure everybody up here would agree, and I'm sure for the public. Just in general, though, if you take out on page 5, the whole summary page, if you take out the unfunded totals year over year from 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, it actually goes down, which is probably a reflection of how much we're doing right now. And essentially, overall, what it seemed to indicate to me is we're not getting a lot of new stuff, which I know for department heads isn't as fun as getting new stuff. But it appears that next year, unless it's really needed or falling apart, we're kind of maintain. Am I correct in that impression? Is that a reflection of how many projects we're doing right now that are not accounted for in this?
You are correct with that. And also, as Cindy mentioned, we accumulate funds so that we can pay for large projects.
projects later,
So that
yeah.
we're not going in debt, right?
Yeah.
So, it's important for our financial solvency that we minimize the amount of debt, just like you would for your personal debt. And
Save
so,
up.
you're seeing that, and then you're also seeing a lot of planning projects to where,
Yes.
it's very important. It's, it's our collective goal that we become proactive instead of reactive. And so that's why you see all of the water supply plan and the stormwater master plan and the parks master plan, is so that we can appropriately schedule for the next 10 years out.
Yeah.
So once we get those tools in place, you'll see those projects coming into the budget, because right now they're big line items, right?
Yeah.
We're just like, oh, this is a line item for the downtown mobility projects, and the next one will actually have more line items. So it'll look like more, but it'll be
Yeah.
the same amount of funding. So, so thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed is maybe a rule was implemented. If it had been in the prior black and white book in the sixth year for more than 5 CIP sessions, it was kind of time to get some of that stuff out of there. I'm not going to mention any of them by names because nobody needs to remember some of those things. But I appreciate moving those out because I think it gives the public a more realistic picture of what we're actually planning to do and not, for lack of a better term, political promises or pie in the sky kind of ideas. This is what we can realistically afford and what we need to afford as a city. So I appreciate that very more realistic approach to this. What did you call it? The based budgeting, the type of budgeting you said it was called.
Yeah, we're just trying to ensure the financial solvency and that
Yeah.
you have actually a feasible budget.
That's
So that we're not looking at projects that aren't funded and don't have funding sources. That was important to you all, as far as your council planning work session to talk about higher transparency and community engagement. So that's a piece of that.
yeah, good. I really like the document. Thank you all for your hard work. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Vice Mayor, you have anything?
Just one question, and I know this is probably maybe asking a little too deep into the crystal ball, but do you anticipate if there's anything, whether it be one or a couple items, and I guess it would likely be out of that unfunded category, but if anything else became more pressing where we may have to take on debt? Is there anything?
I mean, sure, right? If we had a
Don't say
major catastrophe, if we
No.
had a hurricane.
No.
So I mean, I don't have the crystal ball, and I think that's why, it's important to have a realistic budget and to be very careful when taking on debt, because you don't know when you may have to, right?
Yeah. Very good, thank
Do
you.
lift stations operate underwater? Just, no,
No.
that's bad.
Any questions?
Need
Great job.
generators on boats.
So I just have one question and then a comment. My question, Dan, for you is the medians over at Harbor Palms are destroyed because of all the construction, the long-term construction. They're going to replace all that, correct? I was going to ask, what you were going so quickly. I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a move.
Yeah, I was in the zone. It is part of their contract that when they decide, like when we allowed them to use it, that they would restore those.
Okay. Then the other question is, before Bruce left, he ran reclaimed water down those. They worked for about 6 months, then they stopped. Is that plan gone? Is that going to work when the new medians are repaired and
You're saying
completed?
the existing reclaimed irrigation? I'll have to look into that. I don't know off the top of my head, but
Okay. They used to work on
I
a
know it-
battery pack,
yeah.
and they would go off, and then they only worked for like 6 months, and then they stopped.
Water plus batteries equals bad.
Anyways,
Yeah,
thank you.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what the plan
Okay,
is, but
that's
I,
fine.
Yeah.
And then my other comment is, the actual physical book, compared to what Councilmember Gannon said, it's just so much easier to read, and I was talking to Felicia about this. The staff did an amazing job in creating this document that now can be used for future, generations. I mean, this is completed. It's so much easier to read. Actually, what my favorite part about it is how it explains the years as we go on to the future of what the money will be there, how we're going to impact us financially, and if there is a need to get a bond or some kind of funding or a grant. So great job, staff. That's on my last comment. And Felicia, thank you for all your hard work in this too. Thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure, and I'm excited to show you all the website interface as well. I think
Yeah,
that you'll
that's gonna
be
be great.
very impressed.
Very cool.
That's not today.
No.
Not today. Not yet.
All right, anything else for the record? We're good?
Very cool.
All right, thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.